homeopath by profession and practicing for last 25 years at Lokhandwala, Mumbai, Andheri, and also integrative wellness therapist, a facilitator, facilitating various workshops. Yeah, I practice as a hypnotherapist, as a past life therapist, and also as a counselor and a health psychologist. And putting it all together, I have created my own therapy called core somatic integration, which I use for helping many of my clients in healing, in treating many diseases, and also working specifically and big time with relationships, and that's my forte. And most of the relationships I've seen have gone back very happy, and even with the serious breakdowns in relationships, still when they come in and they have found major relief and a kind of a solution for and looking forward to their lives, and many of them are continuing together even after 8-10 years of going through a bad patch in the marriage. And today I'm going to talk on harmonizing marital discords. Yeah, and also enjoying fulfilling happy relationships. So that's what is the topic of today. And what we're going to do is that we are going to start off with this session, and after some time towards the end I will keep it open for all of you to ask questions. So we go on for at least 45 minutes, and then we take a break, and then you can ask questions in the last 15-20 minutes, and maybe we can continue after that. Yeah, so great. So I'm quite sure each one of us over here, and otherwise also in the world, we all want a very happy, joyful life. So tell yourself, is it not so? It is. Yeah, we all wanted a very happy, peaceful, joyful, fulfilling, satisfying relationship, and that's what we all yearn for. In fact, after so many years of practice, I have come to an understanding, to a conclusion, that we all are doing everything in our life. It is all for having a very healthy, happy, fulfilling, satisfying relationship. And as much as violence we have, as much as aggression we have, as much as breakdown we have in a marriage or in any relationship, we are all looking forward to have it harmonized, to have it happy. Because and one of the reasons we end up having discords, we are having problems, is because we don't know how to resolve it in a peaceful manner. But get that, with all that breakdowns that we are creating, we are yearning, we are looking forward, we are wanting to have a joyful relationship. Yeah, and that's why even in that fights they say, why don't you understand? Why can't you listen to me? Why can't we have a peaceful talk peacefully? So can you see behind that the concerns? Yeah. So today we are going to talk about how do we harmonize marital discords. What I've realized as I was making this, that there are so many different things in this when we talk about relationship, but I have taken a very small aspect. But if we actually sit down to it, and maybe in some other sessions, there are various other aspects. If you start understanding and if you start working on it properly, I can guarantee you a breakthrough, a definite breakthrough in whatever a relationship you are in, and however the relationship is. But the only important thing is that you got to be willing. You've got to be willing, and willingness is the key. And once you're willing, I'm quite sure the breakthrough is possible. Okay, so let's go ahead very quickly, touching upon various points, yeah, as to what is actually creating the breakdown, what is actually creating the disharmony, and how do we actually create pathways or figure out ways to have a happy, enjoyable, fulfilling, satisfying relationship. Yeah, so let's go ahead. So first of all, what affects a marriage or a relationship? I'm going to talk about relationships. Basically, we are focusing on marriage. Yeah, but I realize that, or you will understand that as we go about, that whatever we are going to talk about is going to impact every relationship, or it is impacting every relationship. Yeah. So first of all, what is to be understood? What is it that is creating the breakdown? Many of us don't even think about it. But let me tell you, what is actually creating the breakdown or creating a problem in your marriage is your relationship, the kind of relationship that you have shared with your parents. This might come as a surprise to many of them. Yeah, the kind of relationship as a child, as you are growing, that the kind of relationship you have had with your parents. I have seen in my sessions that it's not just the kind of relationship that you have shared with your parents earlier, but also the kind of relationship that you are sharing now, currently. It has a major impact on your marriage relationships and marital relationships and other relationships. Secondly, what is also important to know is the kind of relationship your parents shared with each other, or the kind of dynamics that the family had as you were growing up. Because you will realize as you grow up, and many a times, or mostly, just barring a few of them, most of them generally recreate the relationship that they had with their parents, or the relationship that their parents had. It is just recreated. Yeah. So, and the upbringing, the childhood upbringing, the traumas, right? And also your perception about your spouse, your relationship, that holds a lot of significance in the kind of relationship you have with your partner, your spouse. And then your expectations, and of course the suppressed emotions. We are also going to talk about how do we resolve it. We are going to touch it, yeah? Because if at all it's a deep problem, it's a deep issue, then definitely you need to take professional support, or you need someone who understands how to resolve this, yeah? So that is something that we got to look into. But at the same time, let's talk about this. So what is actually happening as we see? So first of all, we talked about the kind of relationship you share with your parents, or the kind of relationship that your parents shared with each other. I've seen so many clients. I still remember that case when I was growing up, and we had a maid at our place, and she used to get beaten up by her husband, and I used to get very angry because that maid had worked with us for the longest period, and she was nowhere a maid. She was always a family member, and so we had just grown in front of her, and she took care of everything possible like a parent. So from there I used to get very angry with the kind of relationship that the husband treating her like that. So now when that was happening, I would say, okay, why does he beat you up, and let's go and complain to the police, or I'll go and beat him up. And I used to say all those things. So she used to say, oh, no, don't do that, don't think about that, no police and all that. I said, why? She's saying, no, it's normal. I was surprised. She said, it's normal. I said, why? She said, my father used to beat up my mother. So it's okay if my husband beats up, because that's how it is. So and that day, I still remember, this is almost 20 years back, but I still remember those words, that how we actually carry the pattern that our parents follow in our marriages. We carry the kind of patterns that our parents follow, or that they have. We actually model them. Let me also tell you something. Most of us recreate our parental relationship in our marriage. Most of us recreate our parental relationship in our marriage. Meaning, if my parents, like I have seen so many of my clients, after some time I ask them, okay, how was your relationship with your parents had? And they would almost say that it was exactly the kind of relationship I'm having after 8 years or 7 years or 10 years of my marriage. My father used to be very quiet, and my mother used to keep complaining, and here I am complaining and my husband is very quiet. Or they used to have fights all the time, and they would keep arguing, and my father then would drink, and here I have a husband and I hated drinking, and here I have a husband who drinks a lot, or something of that sort. Like my father didn't have a proper job, or my mother was always violent, and here I have a father I have a husband who's finding it difficult to keep a job. And so how is it that we are replicating? That is something that we got to learn. How is it that we are replicating? This is called modeling. Yeah, we model our parents, and so much so that we also attract that kind of relationship in our life. That's why it is said, at least in our country, that marriages are made in heaven. I kept wondering, how come marriages are made in heaven? And then I started realizing it's not just about marriages are made in heaven, it's the subconscious attraction. That's why even, like, I've seen people, they get onto the net, and then they find someone, they like that person, and after a few days they express that, oh, I feel I have a liking towards you, and thousands of kilometers away, after you haven't even met that person ever, but you start feeling, and then you get married to that person, and then you might go through a very good marriage or a bad marriage, but somehow it has been seen that they have attracted a similar kind of relationship that their parent had. How did they know that this person, whom I don't even know, is actually going to support me in recreating a marriage that my parents had, which was they were working for them? About us. So it is a very subconscious attraction. So, but then that doesn't mean that you can't change it. You can change it. And you can change it when there's a conscious willingness. Of course, both partners have to be willing, but with therapies and all that I'm doing, I've seen that even if one partner is willing, or one person who's suffering comes in and is willing, there is a large possibility a lot of things can be changed. But if both the partners come in, then there is magic happening, provided they are willing to make that difference that is required. So if you notice, if you see the photo, the picture also over here, it's whatever is happening in the background, the child is picking up. And now, get that, the subconscious always recreates what it knows. The subconscious will always recreate what it knows. Just taking it from there, like that could be one of the reasons why poor people having poor parents generally remain poor, and rich people tend to get richer. The reason is that there is a lot of programming that is happening, the pre-programming or pre-conditioning that is happening over there. Same way, the child who's going through or being in a family where there's a lot of aggression, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of fights happening, or the other way around, where their parents are very peaceful, calm, relaxed, generally they tend to create similar kind of or attract similar kind of relationships, or create similar kind of relationships. Even if when they start off, they could be having a good experience in the relationship, but over a period of time, they generally tend to have a breakdown. And this you'll hear when you can look at your own relationships. Like many of them have come in and they say, like especially the one who have had love marriages, they're saying, oh, this guy has changed, or this lady has changed. I think this guy is a fake. Earlier he was like cheating me because he never showed his true colors. No, dear, that was not about not showing true colors. See, remember one thing about any relationship. You never, if you're going for a party, you never wear a bad dress or a dirty dress or dirty shoes. You always dress up well, or maybe the best dress that you got. Same way, when you are getting into a relationship, you'll always show off what is best because you want that other person to be in your life. So it's very understandable why a person should express themselves in the best possible manner when they are getting into a relationship. It's obvious. But over a period of time, when you start getting used to each other, then whatever is suppressed or whatever is held back or whatever is not or whatever is in the past will start showing up in the relationship. So this is something that we got to understand, that whatever is there in the past, whatever said and done, whatever is there in your subconscious as patterns will always express itself whenever there is an opportunity. And whenever you are under stress or whenever the situation is conducive enough, it will express itself. You cannot hide it. And I'm quite sure many of them have experienced this already in your marital relationship. So one of the reasons is that we are always modeling our parents and we recreate our parents' marriage in our marriage. And that's one thing many of them don't realize. I have spoken to so many of them, when they start understanding or case taking, when they understand that I created my parents' marriage in my marriage, I recreated. It's almost like a shocker for them. But that understanding itself brings about a transformation. So even if you look at this, if you have been someone who's been very timid, very inexpressive, very shy, and you had a dominating environment around, generally you get into a relationship where you have the person who's new to you in your life, who's come to in your life after 25-30 years of you living your life. That person also turns out to be very dominating and overbearing can be. Now how does that happen? That is how the subconscious, and we got to learn this more than change this thing about or start talking lovingly to the person and be nice to the other person. That doesn't work just like that, because your subconscious is way powerful. Subconscious is way powerful than your conscious mind, right? And whatever said and done, it will always win. It will always, and get that the subconscious is not trying to hurt you. The subconscious is not trying to get back at you. It is only saying, because the mind, whatever said and done, the mind always wants to be clean, clear and pure. That's the real state of the subconscious. We have got conditioned, and then we have put in all those experiences very unknowingly, very unconsciously. We have just imbibed it. Now the unconscious, and the next part of the game is, whatever you put in, you got to clear it up, because I have come clean and I want it to be clean. And that's what the subconscious always wants, that it has to be cleared up. And also when we are talking about the brain is locked in a particular pattern. Yeah, when we are talking about the reptilian brain and the midbrain and the higher brain, so it has got caught up in a particular pattern. And under stress, the old patterns will always play up. And that is what creates a breakdown in the marriage or in a relationship. So when we are able to catch this and retrain our brain, retrain our mind in a new direction, in the direction of how we want it, you will see you are able to have breakthroughs in your marriage. Right? So now that is one. Let's talk about the second thing, which I think I've already covered. Yeah, so we are talking about childhood traumas. So when we are talking about childhood traumas, we are talking about the kind of conditioning or the kind of upbringing that you had. if it's a traumatic relationship, definitely you're not able to trust people. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, there's the kind of parenting. We have attachment styles. When we talk about attachment styles, the avoidant attachment and the fearful attachment and the anxious attachment, and there's a secure attachment. Secure attachment is the kind of relationship, or any attachment style. There are 4 attachment styles. The attachment styles are the relationship that you share with your parent, especially your mother. So depending upon how the relationship you had with your mother will decide the kind of relationships you are recreating in your marriage, or the kind of relationships you attract. That's why there are so many people, they generally attract a lot of negativity in their relationship. It doesn't matter how many relationships they have changed or they have got into, but somehow they seem to be repeating or very unconsciously getting into a similar kind of relationship. See, get that one thing, till the time you don't get in there, you can't get out of that. Till the time you don't get in there, you can't get out of it. Same way, the only way to resolve the kind of traumatic experience that you have had is to recreate the traumatic experience. And then you find a way out of it. So that is how it is. So the mind actually is recreating that in your marriage. Yeah, so I'm talking about the attachment styles. The attachment styles are, there are 4 attachment styles. One is a secure, where there is a loving, caring, warm environment. And all these attachment styles is the relationship, especially with your mother, because she's the prime connection that you have as you are born. And then you have the anxious attachment style, then you have the avoidant attachment style, and then you have the fearful attachment style, in which the last one, where there is a lot of ambivalence in the relationship, there's swinging in the relationships, and this can also lead to psychological issues. Yeah, the kind of relationship. So it's very important the kind of relationship you have, and this is all unconscious. Also, the way you perceive those relationships, that is very important. The way you perceive your relationship with your parents, that's very, very important. Now, it doesn't matter how your parents were, even if they were nice, but you think, oh, I got compared, and my sister or my younger brother or my elder brother or elder sister got more attention, I was never paid attention to, I was not loved. I have seen that there's a large possibility that the person generally ends up in a relationship where they don't feel loved. Why? It's very simple. Because it's not about how the parents behaved. It's not about how much your spouse is giving or not giving. It is your perception that you carry. And your perception, whatever the other person does, you will be looking at the other person, the relationship, from that lens. And then from that lens, as you're looking at the relationship, there's a perception, you will start having behaviors like that. And slowly and steadily, you will start recreating that atmosphere. Now, you may think the other person is not doing it, not realizing that your perception comes first. Remember, it's your relationship that you share with your own self that is impacting the relationship that you have in your marriage or any relationship. The relationship that you have with your own self is impacting the relationship that you have in your marriage or any other relationship. This is very important. The relationship that you have with your own self is impacting the relationship that you have in your marriage or any relationship that you have. Until the time you don't get this, you will not be able to resolve it, because you got to resolve it for yourself, and that's why the subconscious is throwing it up. That's why the patterns are played out. There's nothing right or wrong, there's nothing good or bad about it. These are just patterns and they're just showing up. Now you got an opportunity to resolve all this for yourself, and as we do it, you will notice that there's a lot of calmness, peace, happiness that comes within you first. And then slowly everything around you calms down. And the relationship, that the way you want it, it starts, the relationships are blossoming in that direction. How did that happen? It's the relationship that you share with yourself. That is the key. But generally what happens is that we want that the other person should change. We always want that the other person should change, because the kind of lens that we have, we generally think that I am right, the other person is wrong. I am right and the other person is wrong. So when you're learning transactional analysis, so transactional analysis is something that I teach, and in that there are 4 life positions: I plus, you plus, I minus, you minus. And the people who think that I am right, others are wrong, will generally blame the other people. And the other one is where I am wrong, I minus, you plus. They will put others in higher position, feel that there's something wrong, and they'll keep trying to find a void within themselves. And these people keep searching for a void. Anything happens, they'll feel guilty. They'll say, oh, I am the one to be blamed. And there's some who are just hopeless that nothing is going to work. That person is wrong, I am wrong, the world is wrong, my in-laws are wrong, my parents are wrong, everyone is wrong. These are the people who really get depressed. So you got to also understand the positions that you have in your life. And the best one, or the one which really is very happy or joyful or has a sense of completion, is the one which generally carries this experience of I am okay, you are okay, I plus, you plus. But remember, all this has to be created. You cannot just keep going around like people say, oh, say an affirmation that I am fine, my relationships are fine. It doesn't work like that. What you're saying as an affirmation, I'm not saying that affirmations don't work. They do work. But you have some dirty water, really dirty, and you pour some clean water on it, it's still going to remain dirty. You got to really put in lot of clean water, and all the other dirty water has to pour out of that vessel, so that the clean water takes over and then the whole vessel becomes clean. But that's really going to take time. The other way is to go in there into your subconscious, into that space where all those memories and traumas and experiences are stored, and resolve those experiences within. That's the quickest method, and that is where generally people require professional support. Yeah. Who's on mute? Oh, okay. So, yeah. So what I said was, though you're like all this are subconscious, so affirmations do work, I said. But this is like pouring water, clean water, in a vessel which is filled with dirty water. Now if you keep pouring little, it's not going to make any change in the dirty water. But if you keep pouring a lot of it, such that all the dirty water flows out, and you keep refilling it with clean water, there's a possibility that the vessel will have, after some time or a long amount of time, will have clean water in the vessel. But that's really going to take a lot of effort and time, and that's where the professional support, the professional help comes in, because that person, the professional, like a therapist, is going right in there where it matters, where your memories are stored, where all those experiences are stored, all these traumatic experiences are stored, the fears and all those suppressed emotions are stored, and resolves them and releases them, all those traumatic experiences. Like I have so many clients, they go through one session of therapy and then they say, oh God, I never knew that it could be such a beautiful experience. And after that they come back and they say, it's amazing that what I was carrying for 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, within 1 or 2 sessions, how do these people change around me? Oh, by the way, the people around you didn't change. You changed, your relationship with yourself changed, and thus you're wearing a new lens now. So you can feel that the people have changed. Because the people were just doing what was required in the dynamics to have it 100% between you and them. And now, since your way of thinking, the dynamics within change, the dynamics outside also change. So relationships, doesn't matter how it is, can be transformed. When I say transformed, I am not saying that you will stay in the relationship. 99% of my clients always stay and they have beautiful relationships. Yes, there could be sometimes maybe a 0.1 or just 1% where it's very painful and they got to take a step which could be the other way around. And that's not what I suggest. But the thing is that if it's required, it's required. You can't be in an abusive, painful, torturing, getting beaten up, battered relationship. And if the person is out of his mind and out of his head or has a psychological issue, you got to find your path then. Yeah. So I'm not someone who's saying, okay, you got to be there. But most of the relationships, they are compatible. Only thing, there are something from the past that is coming up and that has to be resolved. So that can be done. Yeah. So, and now going into this, yeah, this is something that I found in unexpressed emotions. So this is another one, that all your emotions that are suppressed and you think, oh, I put it in under the carpet and I will have a beautiful relationship. No, this is like a dead rat. Even if you close the room, the smell will reach you. Same way, unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. And that is something that we got to understand in our marriage. That most of us, because of the kind of upbringing that we have, the conditioning that we have, the kind of traumatic experience that we have, carry a lot of unexpressed emotions. Many of them carry a lot of fear, a lot of anger from their past, and a lot of sadness. And if you're not resolving the fear, the anger and the sadness, I guarantee you, you can't have a great relationship. Even if your partner is putting in 200% in the relationship, the partner will say, oh, I put in everything, I'm there for that person. But till the time you carry this, it's like the dead rat within you. It will smell, it will stink, and it will break the relationship or spoil the relationship. We'll have the relationship for a lifetime, but you cannot guarantee a happy, joyful relationship. No, that's not happening. Yeah, because if the dead rat is there in the room, it's going to smell. Doesn't matter even if it's in one corner and you cannot see it for next 100 years, but it will have the smell. And the same thing, whatever is happening in your marriage is nothing else but the smell of the dead rat. You got to go for the dead rat, not keep putting perfume around to just make have a good fragrance. It doesn't work. But remove the rat and everything will be fine. Then if you want, you can put the flowers, you can put the fragrance and do all that. But you got to work or remove that dead rat. And that dead rat has nothing else but that traumatic experience and all those unexpressed emotions, especially sadness and anger. Many people have a lot of anger towards their spouses. Though they might be smiling, laughing and happy, but they carry a lot of anger towards their spouses. And many of them, though they might be showing happy, they might be laughing, they might be talking, they might be having 1,000 friends around them, but deep down they carry a sense of sadness. A sadness that I am not getting what I want, or I'm not feeling loved, or I'm feeling very lonely, I'm feeling very dissatisfied. And this may be carried right from the time you were born, or you were in your mother's womb, or you just in your growing up. So it's not necessary. Yes, it expresses itself, it shows up in your marriage, because whatever it is suppressed will show up in your marriage. See, what happens is that when you're growing up, you're busy with your studies and you're busy with your college and you're busy with your friends and all that, and then you get busy with your work. So first 20 years, you don't even have the time to even think about it. You know somewhere that's lurking. But maybe you're so dependent on others and you cannot get out of that place, so you just allow it to happen. And then after 20-25 years, when you get into your work, then you start having those relationships with your bosses, with your colleagues, and at your workplace, or with your friends and all. And then you see all those painful moments. But still you're not living with those people for a long time. In a marriage, what happens? You're staying with that person for a long period, day in and day out. Constant interactions. And generally what I have seen, which I already mentioned, is that you tend to attract the kind of person that the kind of person that you generally would have had an issue with, or you have a problem with as you are growing up. Like, as I said, I gave the example of you didn't like your father drinking, and you end up with your spouse who's drinking, or you didn't like violence in your house, and here you are having, and you're a very quiet person, but here you have a husband or a spouse who's screaming away, yelling away, and at the drop of the hat breaking things. So you just keep wondering, why do I keep attracting similar kind of things? Remember, the suppressed emotion is just trying to express itself so that you pay attention to it, such that you resolve it. It just wants resolution. It just wants to be cleared up. So that's one thing that you got to understand as a bottom line. The subconscious is always trying to support you. It is not going against you. It is always trying to support you. So unexpressed emotions, anger and sadness being the key. Many of them, I've seen many women being so sad in their marriages. And many of them carry so much of anger. And they just seem to be holding it back, thinking that, okay, and there is a lot of blame game. That is what I've seen. And that is never going to resolve anything. Yes, so let's go ahead. So don't be a victim of negative self-talk. Your self-talk matters a lot. Your self-talk, the kind of, in the current, so we have something from the past like your parents and the childhood trauma, the unexpressed emotions also. But the kind of current self-talk that you're having about your partner and your relationships or the situations will never allow you to have a healthy, happy, positive relationship. Guaranteed. No chance at all. So you got to change something within you. You cannot play the victim of negative self-talk. So here I generally tell people, take a book, take a journal, write down all your negative thoughts, all your negative ideas about your partner, about your other relationships, about your situation, the kind of situation you have, and also the kind of negative talk that you have about yourself. Make it a point to write it down so that you know. Remember, acknowledgement is the key to any biggest change in this universe. First, acknowledge that this is wrong. There's nothing wrong in acknowledging. There's nothing bad in acknowledging. Put it down that this is what it is. And then write down how you want to be, how you want it to be, how you want your relationship to be, how you want the situation to be. Be very honest, be very straight. See, get that there are many of them who want to get out of a relationship, or they get out of a relationship. But what I have seen is that they generally tend to recreate or attract similar kind of relationship very soon. Because it's got nothing to do with things out there. It's got to do with how you are operating within. What are the kind of emotions that you carry? What are the kind of experiences that you carry? The kind of internal self-talk that you have? The kind of traumatic experiences that you have not resolved? So all this has an impact on the kind of relationships that you attract. And it doesn't matter how many relationships you have. Large possibility you tend to create similar kind of situations. So it's time to resolve it for yourself. Yeah, so we will just talk about how to resolve or how to transform your this marital discords or your relationship issues. They're very easy. I won't say easy, yeah. They're simple, but they're not easy, yeah. Why they're not easy? Because you're going to confront yourself all the way. And confronting oneself is not easy. That's what we are all avoiding. All the people who get onto the wrong path, take drugs, or are avoiding things, or get into fights, or do whatever, or get into alcohol, get that. The simple way is to confront what's happening. But instead of doing that, they would deteriorate their health, they deteriorate their relationships, create a lot of struggles and pains in their life. But the simple method is to confront. Yeah. So we are going to look at some points as to how we can take those steps to resolve it. So first of all is acknowledge what's happening. However your relationship is, whatever is happening, however painful it is, acknowledge what's happening in your relationship, however bad it is. Yeah. Second, create a very empowering, futuristic vision for the relationship, including your own self, the relationship you have with yourself, and the kind of relationship you want. Whether you're going to get into a relationship or the kind of relationship you're already in. Many of us, if you look back, if you close your eyes, I've done this experiment with so many people. I asked them, okay, what is the kind of relationship you see with your spouse? And say, oh, so horrible. I can see that person screaming away, yelling away. He's such a bad person. She's such a horrible person. So this is the picture you're carrying. Now remember, whatever you're creating in your mind or whatever picture you carry, the mind will create that out there in life. So you got to change something in your mind. So for that, create a new future. Create the newness, the fresh, the kind of relationship that you want, you always wanted. If you want a very happy, peaceful, joyful relationship, put it down on paper. This, and then also elaborate. Be very specific. What do you mean by peaceful, happy, fulfilling, joyful, fun-filled, cheerful? What do you mean by that? Don't just write, oh, I'm having a happy relationship. It doesn't work. Your mind has to be very clear. It's almost like if you are going for your exams, you don't just say, oh, I want to get good marks. You got to say, I want to have 95% or 98% or 85%. Are you getting me? It's like when you're running a race, you just don't say, oh, I want to complete that race. You say, oh, I want to come first. Then the practice changes. The way you operate, the way you practice, the way you have your nutrition and the diet, everything changes. The daily practice also changes. Same way, when you're very, very clear, you put it down on paper. Why on paper? So that you can see it, you can read it every day. If possible, write it down every day. So because writing is a subconscious mechanism, it changes something, the rewiring in the brain. So you got to, if you can, write it down and then say it in your mind. That's very good, so that you can see it and you know that what kind of actions I need to take. Second is no blaming and no bringing up the past. The worst thing that you can do in a relationship that creates the breakdown in a relationship is the blaming that we do in a relationship. We keep blaming our partners, we keep blaming ourselves, we keep blaming the people around, we keep blaming the in-laws, we keep blaming. Blame is only going to enhance the negativity in the relationship, in the condition. If you want to change anything, first thing is stop blaming. Stop blaming others, stop blaming yourself. You should not have any space for blaming. That's the first step. Don't justify your stand. Don't keep telling your friends and your people around that how wrong the person is. Oh, you're spoiling your mind. It's almost like you watching the negative news that's coming on TV and you say, oh, but then it's just going on, it's not impacting your mind. No. It is impacting your mind. The soap operas where you see all the negative things happening between the daughter-in-law, mother-in-law and the husband and the wife. get that it is impacting your mind, because your mind is registering everything and you're watching it at night. Anything that you watch at night will get processed first. The mind cannot not process it. It will process everything. So you got to be careful. You got to be responsible as to what kind of stuff you will watch, what kind of books you will read, what kind of newspapers and what your matter you're going to read in the news, and what kind of self-talk that you're having. So no blaming, no, and secondly, no bringing up the past. When you're working with you want to work out and have a great relationship, don't keep going back into, oh, but 15 years back you did this to me, and 5 years back you didn't lift my bag, and you didn't keep that car door open for me, and when I came in you were not there at home, and I saw. And if you keep bringing it up and keep bringing it up, get that you are only rubbing salt into that wound, and then you have reaction from the other person, and this same reaction pattern from both the sides, it never resolves the relationship. So you got to promise yourself that no blaming and no bringing up the past. Like I have someone, when they worked with me, they were always going through fights, and after they worked with me, I did some therapy for both of them. And whenever the person calls me up, the lady calls me up, she says, Rahjiv, there's something that we learned, that we should not be blaming each other. We should not keep bringing up the past. So whenever there's a tiff about to happen, we just say, okay, so can we stop it here? Let's rethink something how to deal with it differently. Or we just leave the room for a few minutes and then we come back again, because we were just going to go back into old patterns. And since the time this has happened, it's almost a year, they say we have stopped having fights. So that is the kind of changes that can happen once you get aware. Many a times you're not able to do it on your own because we think we are right and we justify our stand, and that's why most of the marriages or most of the relationships, they're not able to work on their own, because one of them has to be having a rational stand, which is not possible. Yeah. So that is where a professional help is required, or someone who can see it objectively and support you. That is very, very much required. Yeah. And also, once you have created the future, the positive, healthy future, you can stick a photo somewhere. Like in my house, I have a photo of my whole family. I have it in my drawer also, and on my mobile, of course. And there are times when I keep watching, I have a smile on my face, and I know how much it helps me very positively, because that's the kind of experience or the visual that is getting imprinted in my brain again and again in my every cell. So whenever I see it, I have a smile on my face. So what happens is that the smile and that picture, they collapse, and that is getting imprinted. So like I'm seeing them, I'm happy. I'm telling myself, I'm seeing them, I'm happy. So that is what is getting imprinted, even without me telling this. So that is something that you can do. But when you are not happy, generally what happens, when you look at that person or think of the person, there's a lot of anger coming up. So you are collapsing anger with the picture of the person. And when you meet the person, you're definitely reacting. So that's what you got to change something. And also your communication and your action has to be in alignment with the new futuristic vision. Also, if at all you cannot, there are people who say, but what create a new vision? I tell them, was there a point in time when you really felt love for this person? It doesn't matter whether it's an arranged marriage or love marriage, but there's some point in time during courtship or when you met the person, first time when you felt good feelings about the person. I said, revoke those feelings. Bring up those feelings, because that were the real feelings of goodness or positivity or cheer, happiness that you had. Bring it up and notice how does it feel to have that in your life back again. And then take actions in that direction. You got to write down these actions. You can't just say it and leave it. No, you got to write it down and see it every day, especially before sleeping and just after waking up in the morning. And then in the daytime, make it a point that I'll take one action or two actions, small actions, very, very small actions. But all those actions will be in alignment with the new future. Are we together? So that is how it is. And then one more very, very important thing. Remember, most of the times the breakdown in your relationship is happening because of expectation. And what I generally hear is that I am like this, why can't my spouse be like me? My dear, you got in relationship with the other person, or you liked the other person in the first place because you both were different. Remember, the left and the right, they're opposite and they can join. You can't have two rights. So that's how it is. They come together. Yeah. So same way, your partner, your spouse, the one you are in relationship with is different, and that's why you like that person in the first place. The major breakdown that happens in any relationship, in any marriage, is that we like the person who was different than us, but as soon as we get related or we get married, we want the other person to be like us. It cannot happen because we are opposites. That's why we are together. Respect the differences and work towards a common goal. Respect the differences, work towards a common goal. That's very important, because two people in that relationship, generally their goals are not matching because they never sat down and figured out what kind of goals we want for ourselves, for our family, for our relationship, for our children, for our parents. For the society, we never got down to that. We're just vaguely going around and then keep going around. So first is create a future. Go back to your original feeling of joy, happiness that you had, and then no blaming, no bringing up the past. Catch your expectation, write it down, change the expectation. Maybe you can put down new ways of looking at it. Oh, I want my XYZ to the relationship or my person to be like this. Oh, how can I see the other person differently? How can I accept those differences? Respect the differences and work towards a common goal. So this is in brief. Yeah, and of course, go and take help. There's nothing wrong in taking help. There's nothing wrong in taking help. Professional help. Get this. It's available everywhere. Counseling, therapies. It's very, very important. Meet up your counselor, meet up your therapist, meet up a psychologist, the family therapist. They are really help because they can see it differently and they have been trained in this. And they are very objective about what's happening. They don't get entangled in your viewpoints and in your problems. So that is where they can help